Okay, this is what our baby looks like after a total of 4 layers of flesh. We had that first initial layer and then 3 layers of the darkened layer with the burnt sienna and some more yellow ochre added. So this is a total of 4 skin layers to skin tone that I want to work with. So what we're going to do now, before we do any shading or detail work, is we're going to do what I call detail prep. Now usually you'll find that if you've done reborning before, it takes lots and lots of thin layers to build up the color that you want. And I found this technique, doing this next technique, you'll be able to get more color, saturated color, faster. So what I'm going to be using is the Bountiful Baby Look Alive thinning medium, and then just 2 of my brushes and then a sponge. So I just dip this in and we're going to pounce. And this pretty much would be considering texturing, but we're only going to be, I mean, might want to do most of the face, but on like the hands and the feet, we're just going to do the hands and the feet. We're not going to do the whole leg. You can do like creases, any of the creases if you want. But I just put this on the brush on the face where we're going to be doing any shading or creasing. And then take your sponge and sponge it out to where it's a nice even consistency. You don't want any globs of it, and you want it to blend. You don't want to be able to see where you stopped. Usually I'll do like the bigger brush to put it on, then the sponge to even everything out, and then you could take the other brush and kind of just blend your edges out. So you can't see any straight lines from the sponge or anything. So you just kind of rub them out. You can go back in and get the finer details. And it's just like with the putting on the washes. You want to tilt and look at the light. And this is the layers that, and you want to have a toothpick because this is the kind of thicker layers that you want to make sure that there's no fuzzies or anything trapped, because this is a thicker layer, and though that's when the hairs will get stuck in there. So you just use a toothpick, get it out, go back, blend it in, and this is going to help bring out the color, and the color will be able to get in there, and you won't have to do a bazillion thin layers of color to build up your color. Blend out those edges. And I've even noticed with this Look Alive, it looks dewy here, but when you bake it, it doesn't seem to be as dewy as I would like it to stay. But you can always put this layer so that you can build your color and then put a layer over the top to seal it. So I like to do the areas where we're going to do shading and coloring in the creasing. And then you can do around the neck. This Miracle Kit has a lot of creases around the neck, so we can do that as well, around the mouth, under the chin, around the neck, and in the ears. So just dip one in there, spread some of it around, and this will help grab those colors that we're going to be using. So we won't have to use as much. Using all the techniques that I've learned and the, what I'm showing you, I can complete a baby 100% in painting in 3 days. And sometimes I could do painted hair within that 3 days as well. So you just want to blend out so that there's no lines. And we're just giving the paint something to grab onto and adhere to faster. The ear. Especially I've noticed some people that, you want to do the little pink on top of the ear to make it look like the baby has been sleeping on its ear or something. It doesn't really adhere to the vinyl as well. You have, and it's not an even color. And when you give this layer of texture, and it's not going to be sandy feeling, you're just giving it a layer to adhere to so that you can get a more even color faster. Just blend it out. And you want to make sure that this layer dries completely before you sorry, put it in the your oven or your cooker, countertop cooker, whichever one you use. That way you don't smudge it or anything, because you don't want to even be able to see that it's even there when it's done cooking. You won't even see it. You might be able to feel it slightly when you run your finger across, but it's not thick. You're just putting a little clear layer on the areas that you're going to detail and add shading. This kit has lots of nice neck wrinkles. And you can see how the areas that we put on are a little shiny. They're not going to be shiny after it bakes, so you don't have to worry about that. Sometimes I wish it looked as dewy like this after the bake, but it doesn't seem to stay as dewy. This nice back of the neck crease back here. Wherever you want to accentuate with highlighting and shading and stuff is where you're gonna add this. Make sure you blend it out so you can't see where it is and where it's not. and then let that dry completely. Now on the legs, I mostly do the feet. Cover the entire foot. Because a lot of us like to do those really pink feet. So we're going to pretty much cover the entire foot. Up a little bit past the ankle. Make sure to get the bottom of the feet. And this will really help too when you want to do like how some artists do like the toes, the tips of the toes and the tips of the fingers really pink. This is what's gonna help you get that, achieve that faster. The sponge is what gets the real nice flat, even texture. Nice. And then the smaller brush to blend that edge so you don't see any straight lines from the sponge. Making sure you get any hairs out. Go back, blend. Blend in the creases. Make sure there's no buildup or any goop. And then I'll add some to the big bend here in the back of the leg, and in these big folds on the leg. And that's what I do to each of the legs. The hand, the same thing as the foot. Cover the entire hand. Because I find a lot of time, especially at the hands, when you try to do the pink in the creases or the fingertips, you know, the the paint doesn't like to sorry, adhere well to the fingertips when you want to do those pink fingers. So this gives a layer for that paint to adhere to. And it's a lot easier to get it on there and have it stay. And as you can see with this, we're just going straight out of the container. We're not adding anything to it. It's just making it clear. If I was to do this as a finishing layer, I would add a little bit of yellow ochre to it for Caucasian, or burnt sienna for African American to do the final sill, just to give it a really, to punch up the color. But since we're just using this as a base for our details, we're just leaving it clear. It doesn't matter if you get it on the nails or not. It'll actually help on the nails as well. Just blend that edge. Then in the creases of the arm. But like I was saying, when you go to paint the fingertips, sometimes the paint won't stay and it will just slide down and pull into all of your wrinkles. And as you can see in this Miracle Kit, has lots of wrinkles in the hand, which are lovely, but sometimes is a pain when your paint pulls up in them and you're just pretty much wasting your paint. And this way, with this clear coat, it kind of fills in those deep gaps and you're able to just paint on it without the paint pooling into those little cracks and creases. On the belly plate, I'm going to do the creases of the arms, where the arms are. They're little boobies. Little boobie area. And I don't know if you can see how it creates, the sponge creates lines. So you just want to blend those out. Circles work well. So we don't want any lines. I know you probably wouldn't even be able to see them, but I would be afraid that they would show up when you paint with your color over the top. Just make sure you blend those straight lines and get into those creases. And you definitely, since the this little stump here is going to need lots of color. Got a string on here. It's going to need lots of dark coloring, and you don't want to have to do a bazillion layers. You just put lots of that on there. And make sure it goes in the creases really good. Pumpkin! My dog, she can see out the front window, so she's going to bark at anything that she sees. Anybody? So get all in these folds and belly creases. Go back and blend it out. And by the time this completely dries before you bake it, it's not even going to be glossy at all. You're not even going to really be able to see it unless you tilt it to the light and see the texture. But it shouldn't even be that much texture to even really tell. So it's not going to be rough. But I like the extra little, I love the texturing. It's slight, but it's enough to make a huge difference with the look, to make it look more realistic. And so I'm going to do the other hands and feet and then let completely dry, and then we'll bake.